This was a typical high-altitude and normal cruise but suddenly crashed at gun speed. Air Asia Flight 85 East 1 crash 8 years ago. On December 28, 2014, Air Asia Flight 85 East 1 was cruising over the Java Sea in Indonesia. The Airbus 320 was carrying 156 passengers. The flight was taking off from Surabaya, Indonesia to Singapore. The journey takes 2 hours 22 minutes. After takeoff, the flight crew passed through 7 minefields. A thunderstorm cloud was detected ahead. The decision was made to request an altitude climb to bypass the thunderstorm from the controller, but before the crew had a chance to contact ATC, the aircraft was warned of a malfunction. The crew handled the warning according to the ECOM display. The malfunction soon disappeared. But a few minutes later, the fault sounded again. The crew repeated the procedure to eliminate the fault and requested the controller to climb to 38,000 feet to avoid thunderstorms. Here Asia 8501, you are cleared to 340, controller replies to let it fly at 34,000 feet. The warning sounded again to distract the crew. Here we go again. The controller waits too long for the flight crew to respond. Repeat call to flight. Air Asia 8501, you appeared to 340, trouble for the 4th time. The crew was getting impatient. Enough of this, repeatedly handling fault alarms. Here Asia 8501, do you read me? Please acknowledge the ground controller's repeated calls. Still no answer. As the cockpit malfunctions become more and more frequent. Here Asia 8501, do you read me? Please knowledge, part of the passenger cabin dining room is tilted. Passenger belongings fell. As soon as the crew discovered the plane's big step forward problem, the plane flipped to the other side. The pilot seemed unable to control the plane. By this time the aircraft had exceeded the championship-approved 34,000 feet cruise altitude and continued to climb rapidly. At this point, the plane was like a wild horse, spinning and trying to level out. But the plane kept going up. Then the plane started to fall for some reason. Flight 85 East was plummeting to the ground. There seemed to be nothing the pilot could do. The plane flew for only 43 minutes. After 43 minutes of flight, it disappeared on a big screen. News of the plane's loss spread quickly. These are typical of air crashes that go from normal cruising conditions to sudden loss of the plane. The news media became very interested. The families of the 162 people on the flight also began to demand an explanation. Why did the plane go missing by mistake? Right now the Post, playing in the missing for 12 hours and there's that keep sense of depression. AirAsia's press spokesman has made a public statement and joined forces with the government to search and rescue survivors and Arctic wreckage. This is the second season of major aviation accidents in 2014. On March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight 3 Memorial was on its way to Beijing, was also lost according to the 6 positions of the flight before it crashed. Several countries, including China, sent out joint search and rescue teams to search for the wreckage of the plane. After 2 days of searching, in a strait in the Java Sea, the wreckage of the arm was found. Soon after, the remains of the victims were recovered. All 162 people on board were killed. Indonesia organized a large memorial service to pay tribute to those who perished. Air crash investigation experts. The investigation into the cause of the crash began simultaneously. Investigators first suspected thunderstorms at the time, but after comparing the location of the plane crash and the area covered by thunderstorm clouds, investigators ruled out this suspicion. The second suspicion: the aircraft had frequent malfunction warnings in the air. Could this malfunction have caused the crash? After analyzing the black box recordings, investigators found that the aircraft's rudder was deflected. The pilot was alerted the first 2 times. The crew followed the ECOM instructions to eliminate the fault, but the fault recurred. The crew was impatient and used other methods to deal with the problem. All safety devices to protect the aircraft failed. The aircraft suffered a severe deflection and eventually lost control. But why did the crew use other methods to deal with the fault? It turns out that, before the captain's mission on the 28th flight on the 25th, the aircraft had a similar malfunction on the ground. At that time, the ground crew restarted the aircraft computer. The malfunction was eliminated on the 28th. The crew wanted to repeat the error, but unlike the last ground maneuver, This time, after shutting down the electronic computer in the air, the plane lost control and drifted severely left, and the co-pilot was fumbling while dealing with multiple faults, became disoriented. The crew also did not take over the aircraft quickly. The plane went out of control and crashed. After the incident, investigators reviewed the aircraft's maintenance records. This time, after shutting down the electronic computer in the air, the plane lost control and drifted severely left, and the co-pilot was fumbling while dealing with multiple faults, became disoriented. The crew also did not take over the aircraft quickly. The plane went out of control and crashed. After the incident, investigators reviewed the aircraft's maintenance records.